Hey, it's Aaron, and as you probably know, pollution is starting to become a bit of a problem. Global catastrophic climate change, the end of all humanity as we know it, a lot of this is a bit of a downer. It makes a lot of people a little bit doomer-pilled. So, today we're going to talk a little bit about what we can do to help fix this pollution problem, and a few YouTubers have gotten together to at least make a bit of a dent in it. But before we get into that, we're going to talk about exactly who is causing the majority of this pollution, specifically plastics in the ocean. There's a lot of different types of pollution out there. If we were to focus on all of them, then we would probably be here all day. So instead, we're just going to focus on plastics, specifically single-use plastic bottles and plastic straws and turtles getting them stuck inside of their throats and so forth. So plastic pollution is an individual problem with individual solutions. No, I'm just kidding. It's not an individual problem whatsoever. It's actually systemic. It's something that was created by big business, big industry, and the government that follows them, basically to enhance their profits and make all of the products that they sell cost a little bit more and make a little bit more money. You'll notice that every time that you go and buy soda pop or a package of donuts or grapes, it's all packaged in plastic containers, plastic bottles, plastic whatever, and all of this stuff is single-use and entirely disposable. None of it, of course, is biodegradable, because there's really no incentive to push the companies to make biodegradable items, so the majority of it either gets incinerated or thrown into the ocean. The number one industry that causes the majority of all of this plastic pollution is something known as Coca-Cola? Coca-Cola. The Coca-Cola Corporation dumps 3 million tons of plastic bottles into the oceans every single year. It's followed directly by PepsiCo, who comes in as a close second, and there's also Nestle and Danone rounding off the list of the top polluters in this specific sector. Now, it's not specifically just Coca-Cola that's causing all of this hardship. It's, of course, the petroleum and chemical industries that make serious bank on creating plastic products that nobody can actually do anything with once they're used. When it comes to recycling, sure, some products are created by recycled materials, but the vast majority of things that you buy, or the packaging that you get containing the things that you buy, is entirely new plastic, or it's entirely new product. And even if it wasn't, the whole industry of recycling these products really doesn't help a whole lot when you have extra trucks, aside from a garbage truck, going around to collect all of these recycled goods, bringing them to a large factory, turning them into something else by shredding them and melting them and manipulating them in different ways. And the things that are produced, the plastic that's produced out of it, or paper goods or whatever, is usually of an inferior quality. So a lot of the time, businesses just choose to go with the new stuff. And why wouldn't they? When the chemical industries and the petroleum industries are producing so much surplus that it's easy for them to take a lot of these chemicals and byproducts and turn them into something new that they don't really give a shit about what happens to them after they're already sold. It's the whole idea of socializing the losses and privatizing the gains. All of us have to deal with the problems and pollution created by these industries socialistically, everybody on the planet, and the gains from that go directly into the pockets of the CEOs and the business owners and the capitalists and big money interests who are making a killing on Wall Street. A lot of people say that, oh, well, if you stop using plastic straws, then that's going to solve a lot of this problem. Or if we stop using single-use plastics, that'll help a whole lot. But what that ends up doing is taking this massive problem that has a real systemic solution and pushing those problems onto the consumer and onto the individual and saying, hey, you better straighten up and fly right. Make sure that you're only using these specific types of products so that you personally can change the entire world through your consumption. Of course, buying more products is the proposed solution to the problem of them creating so many products that are already destroying the planet. The fact of the matter is that individual consumption does not solve systemic problems. It's not going to help anything if we just change over from plastic to paper straws. It's not just the products themselves either, the packages, the bottles, the straws. It's the production of those things that causes the majority of the pollution. The petroleum industry, the chemical industry, all of these different things pumping massive amounts of pollution into the skies, into the water, into the land, and literally toxifying the entire planet. But don't worry, they'll still sell you fresh oxygen in bottles for, I'm sure, a very reasonable price. Now, getting back around full circle to the beginning of this video where I was talking about how a bunch of YouTubers are getting together to try to make a little bit of change in this situation, I'm going to talk a little bit about the proposed idea from a channel known as Mr. Beast with their whole project called Team Seas. So Team Seas is actually based off of a previous campaign known as Team Trees, where a lot of people that watch a lot of different YouTubers were able to donate around $20 million to plant something like 20 million trees all across the world. And it was fairly successful. Who doesn't like the idea of planting trees? Obviously, that is a good thing, and to further this good thing, the people at the Mr. Beast channel, as well as the Vlog Brothers and a lot of other really large creators, are all working together to try to enact some sort of change when it comes to the pollution in the ocean, rivers, and beaches. They have a 3-tiered plan where they're going to try to clean up the rivers, they're going to try to clean up the oceans, and they're going to try to clean up the beaches, because the beaches and the rivers is where a lot of that pollution, plastic specifically, comes from. It kind of just washes right into that big body of drinking stuff that we all rely so heavily on for our survival. So the goal of Team Seas is to raise $30 million to remove 30 million pounds of pollution from the ocean, and it would all happen because of the generous donations from the viewers of these various YouTube channels. And I'm not going to knock this idea. It is at least something. It's at least a way for a lot of these really large YouTubers to be able to help in a small way to eliminate some of the pollution that's here on the planet, specifically floating around in the oceans. But I have to stress that $30 million is only enough to clean up 15,000 tons of this pollution. That's 0.5% of what the Coca-Cola industry produces in a single year. 0.5%. 1/200th of the actual amount of pollution, plastic pollution, that this one company produces. It's barely a drop in the bucket, but it is still a good thing. And if you wish to donate, you can certainly do so. I'll leave a link in the description box down below, but for complete transparency, a lot of this money is going to non-profit organizations and the UN to see if they can help clean the oceans, rivers, and beaches. So if you're comfortable with donating money to these various organizations and trying to help a little bit, then certainly do that. If you're not, and you still want to help, there's a bigger idea out there that would actually solve much more of this pollution problem. And that's changing the way that we actually set up these industries in the first place. In a functional system that cares about humanity, that cares about society, and that cares about the planet that we live on, we wouldn't allow these companies to produce that kind of pollution at all. For a functioning society that actually cares about the health and well-being of the human beings that live within it and the planet that these human beings live on, we have to change the incentive structure that allows for these large corporations and these titans of industry to create all of these problems in the first place. We have to stop them dead in their tracks. In less than 10 years from now, according to all of the scientists that actually know what they're talking about, we are going to be facing imminent climate destruction, something that none of us are going to be able to do anything about, and it could very well lead to the end of humanity itself. And for such a grave, dire situation to be literally knocking on our door, we have to come up with a solution that is just as intense and just as radical as this immense problem so we can actually make a real difference. We can't continue to fight against the symptoms of this problem. We have to actually fight against the cause. That's the only way that we can make a real difference. Through direct action, through mutual aid, and through actual praxis, we can work towards making a society that's better for all of us, and not just an immense cash cow for a select tiny few. And that doesn't take individual action. It doesn't take donating $1 to the grocery store so they hopefully will give it to a charity that will help. It takes collective organizing and real on-the-ground work. It means changing society as we know it and creating the systemic changes that we actually need to stop this problem in its tracks. So, please, check out the links in the description box below as well as the card up above. If you feel inclined to and you think that your donation will help, donate to Team C's, help them out with their charity, and see if that will actually do something. And if you want to change the way that we have this society structured in the first place, check out the links in the description box below. Check out my Praxis video series, and let's get out there and do something. It's up to us. No government agency, no YouTuber, and no billionaire is going to create change. The only people that can save us is us, and we have to work together to do it. At least that's the way I look at it. Thank you very much for watching, and keep evolving.